The Witchita Mountains, National Wildlife Refuge. Author: Daniel Scott. My wife and I recently took an anniversary trip to the Witchita Mountains in south-central Oklahoma. Both of us are lifelong residents of Oklahoma and lovers of the outdoors, but admittedly we are still working through all the wonders of our own great state. The refuge was established in 1901 and spans an area of 59,020 acres and is the home of many species of wildlife and native grasses that survived the plow as the soil was too rocky for tilling. First impressions. While it might not seem unusual if you're heading west in Colorado, it is almost shocking to see mountains rising, as if out of nowhere, in the plains of Oklahoma. The landscape is beautiful yet has the arid look of a Utah or New Mexico. A rocky landscape with grasses, a variety of small shrubby plants, cactus, wildflowers, and in the lower areas a lot of blackjack oaks that are typical to a rocky Oklahoma landscape. Above all, it's breathtakingly beautiful. Wildlife. Wildlife appeared to be fairly abundant, and we were pleasantly surprised to see several species. White-tailed deer and coyotes worked the edge habitat in the hours just before nightfall. The elk were in the prime of their breeding season, and we were treated to bugling throughout the night. In fact, I am convinced that one actually passed through our camp, though I cannot verify this. There was definitely a large hoofed mammal passing through merely a stone's throw from our tent. We were also fortunate to spot one large bull grazing a few hundred yards off the road as we headed to Sunset Parking Area for a morning hike. There is a prairie dog town where prairie dogs can be seen sunning near their burrows. Lastly, we were excited to see buffalo, as nothing is more iconic to the plains and wild places. The largest herd we saw roaming the landscape was from a vantage point on Elk Mountain. Also, while not wild, you can see many longhorned cattle grazing freely. Hiking. There are several trails within the preserve to choose from. We were fortunate to have some local insight from a friend who directed us to a few in particular. These were the Narrows, Crab Eyes, and Elk Mountain. The later of the two are accessed from the Sunset Parking Area. The trails were stated to be moderate, but both were comfortable hikes and short enough to do multiple routes in a day, if so inclined. The trails are not designated by physical markers, but there is a visible footpath that at times can be slightly challenging to locate, but never to the point of concern. I assume that the reason that the trails are not marked is because it's a refuge and not a park, therefore they want to preserve its integrity as a wild space. Campground and facilities. There are a couple of campgrounds, but the primary campground is Camp Doris. It's a large campground with designated areas for group camps, electric and semi-primitive sites. Campsites, with the exception of the group sites, are not available by reservation, so first come, first served. It has facilities which include pit toilets and some facilities with running water, flushing toilets and showers, yes, showers. While the showers were very basic and rudimentary, they were free and had hot water, for which we were very grateful. One last thing that should be noted is that the water on site must be boiled, so be prepared for this or bring your own, which is what we did. Also worth noting is that cell service is limited within the refuge. The weekend we visited we absolutely nailed the weather, however, so did many others, and we were lucky that we got a campsite. We had planned a car camp, but due to poor planning we arrived late to find only semi-primitive sites remained, and these filled quickly. These sites are located in Section C and require you to park and carry in your items. That said, we chose a site, took in only what was necessary, and quickly set up camp. While we had planned to car camp, we still enjoyed the site and never felt we were doing without park staff. We found the park staff to be both friendly and helpful at the campground and at the visitor center. As previously mentioned, the park campground was full. Also, Mount Scott was closed due to road repair. This led to some congestion at the other parking areas. When we arrived at the entrance to Sunset, we were greeted by a member of the park staff who was equal parts mountain man and friendly neighbor. A real joy with a good humor and quick wit. He was in the unfortunate position of directing traffic and diverting cars away as the lot was full, but would let two cars wait for someone to leave. We were lucky enough to grab one of the spots, which allowed us to enjoy some great one-liners, all stated with a smile and the best of intention so as not to be insulting in the least, such as, "A car pulled up," he said, "some people's lucky, some people's not. You aren't." As a person asked repetitive questions about getting in the lot, "You people are ruining my perception of Kansas." And lastly, while people were leaving, he would wave and shout, "Hey, thanks for leaving." In review, it was an amazing weekend trip with beautiful weather, sights, wildlife. Scenic, family-friendly, hikes that got the blood pumping but never left us feeling like we couldn't handle more. And a wonderful example of the diverse range of ecology that Oklahoma has to offer across this great state. Last but not least, I would be remiss if I didn't mention Mears. If you are in the area, you must take a trip to Mears to eat at the Mears restaurant. Established in 1901, it still serves as an eating establishment today, and its uneven floors speak to its history. It has a friendly staff and portions that will blow your mind and stomach. My recommendations are the fried green tomatoes, a famous Mears burger, and cobbler with homemade ice cream. Be prepared for up to a 40-minute wait, and be sure to bring your appetite and your stretchy pants. About the author. Daniel Scott is a hunter, angler, hiker, and camper, a passionate public landowner and board member of Oklahoma's chapter of BHA. Daniel is an avid outdoorsman with a deep passion and respect for the outdoors. His goal is to create a digital space where he can share his advice, tips, and experiences with others, inspiring them to get outside and immerse themselves in the beauty and excitement awaiting them. You can read more of Daniel's articles on his website, the8point.com. You can follow Daniel on his social media platforms, both Facebook and Instagram. The 8 Point.